Hello and welcome to this tutorial on the world tree, how and why and when to use that and what's it for. So the world tree is accessible in both basic and advanced mode. To open it in basic mode, look at something in your game world and open the entity editor, and then with that open, select the world tree tab and you can access the world tree here. Also available in advanced mode, it's just on the right hand side. That's the world tree, or also called the hierarchy sometimes. So what is it? Well, it's basically a list of all the elements in all of the entities in your game world. You'll notice there aren't any scripts or widgets that appear on there. So that's because they will be a child of something in here. So they don't exist on their own. They need like a locator or a mesh or something to attach to. So you won't see the scripts and widgets appear in there, but you'll see everything else, locators, lights, meshes, all of that sort of stuff. They appear in there and you can click on them. And if you double click on them in advanced mode, it will take you to go and have a look at what you've just clicked on. Okay, and then in basic mode, click once and it will do the same thing. It also makes it the what the camera in the editor is looking at, so you can move around it. And also, if you open your entity editor with it selected, then you will be opening the entity editor for that thing in the world tree. So it's a really fast way of navigating around your scene and affecting things in your game world. This is a good reason to keep it organized. So you'll notice I have some things named in here, and then some things are buried in hierarchies and stuff like that. And that's intentional. That's actually part of my organization, believe it or not. When I add something that's important to my game world, I will give it a specific name, such as this beach bar and the bleachers over there. The jungle tree line, which is this tree line at the back here. I give it a specific name so that I know exactly what that is and I can refer to it easily later on. Now, keeping this organized and giving it giving things useful names is a really, really good way to make sure that as your game grows, you can keep it easy to edit and keep it efficient so that you can quickly change things as and when you need to. It also means if you're working in a group that everyone can be working from the same page. It improves the communication, and also when you come further down the line in your when you're making your game, you might start wanting to make some quite bold design decisions based on your level and that sort of stuff. And you can actually end up stopping yourself from doing that if it becomes so much effort to move every individual thing and everything's out of place and disorganized that you actually shy away from making those really important decisions later on in your game's development life cycle. So you might avoid making those decisions because it's so messy and cluttered. And that's a real shame because you could be making a really great game. Whereas then you're just stuck making a good game, but it could have been great. So don't stand in your own way of making something awesome. Keep it organized, keep things named well. So let's have a look at how it works a little bit. So I'm just going to close that. Now, if I open my library and I just want to add a bowl to this bar. So it'll be a source bowl. So let's say I want to add it to the bar. I place it there. I can place it on the bar. So if I just place it on the bar, you'll notice in your world tree that it's automatically added as a child of whatever you just placed it on. And this is true in this mode, and it's true in basic mode as well. If I'm looking there and I place it there, it's now been added as a child of the thing I was looking at. What does a child mean? Well, a child simply means that now I can move this bowl on its own, but also if I move the parent object, which in this case is this beach bar, it will move with it. So notice it's not left hanging on its own. If I added this bowl here, and then I moved it onto the bar like this. Now look what happens when I move the beach bar. So the bowl stays still and it hovers in midair. And then I would have to go and individually move this thing as well. And that's what I mean when I say doing things in that way is a lot more time consuming and can ultimately impact design decisions in your game. And we don't want that. So we can add it to the bar. If we did do that, where let's just add that. If we didn't want that to be a child of the beach bar, so for example, these barrels, let's use a barrel for this. So barrel. Let's say I add it here. And then I'm like, I don't want that to be a child of the beach bar. I just want that to be over here somewhere. Just buried slightly in the sand. Now when I move this beach bar, that barrel is going to move too, and that's not desired behavior. So to avoid that from happening, I can actually move this out from the beach bar and make it a child of something else, like the terrain. So that would be the default thing, is to make it a child of the terrain, and now the beach bar moves on its own, and this barrel will remain stationary. If and now when I move, notice when I move the terrain, the barrel will move as well, which is cool. But what if I want that to be a child of nothing? I want it to exist in space on its own. Well, I can do that too. I would right-click that, and I can click Unparent. And now it's been added here in the root. This section is called the root. Notice the terrain has been added to the root. This is the root of our game world, and things here have no parent. So they are completely on their own, isolated objects on their own. So that's another cool thing you can do, is you can have no parents and then they're just completely on their own, and you will have to move them specifically, which is really good for things like over there I've got some offshore rocks, for example. So I want them to be just there hovering in space, and I don't want movement of the terrain to affect where they are. Same with that mountain over there. I've kept that sort of separate, and the cliffs as well. So that's sort of the parenting in a nutshell. Moving a parent will affect its children, parenting and unparenting, and then moving using the relative checkbox. So if I look at this bowl as my example, now at the moment, let's say I wanted to move it down the bar to where these two drinks are. Now it's a child of this bar, beach bar, which is great, but you can see that the rotation of the bowl it doesn't match this. So let's remedy that. Let's say that it's now at 0. Its rotation is now the same as its parent by making the rotation 0, 0, 0. Something else I should say: if I make the position here 0, 0, 0, it will go to the origin of the beach bar, which unfortunately for my beach bar is down here. But by positioning it at 0, 0, 0, that is relative to its parent. So if this source bowl was a terrain, so now the source bowl is a child of the terrain. If I position it at 0, 0, 0 now, notice that it snaps. Where is it? Notice that it is now snapped to the very center of the terrain. So that position and that rotation is completely relative to the parents. The numbers in these boxes are completely relative to the parent. Let's undo that. Is it back on the beach bar? Yeah, cool. Now, what if I wanted to move this down the bar? It's facing the right direction, so it's facing 0, 0, 0, which means it's facing in the same direction as my beach bar. My beach bar is facing this way. So at the moment, I would need to use these handles to move it like this down the bar. However, if I check this relative checkbox, notice that the handles then turn into the direction this bowl is facing. And this bowl is facing 0, 0, 0 relative to its parent. And the parent is facing -127 on the y-axis, your axis. So, yeah. So now it's easy to move up and down the bar. So that's just something to bear in mind, is the relative checkbox, and using these rotation, the rotation data and the relative checkbox to make things easy and efficient for you to move stuff around your game world quite easily and efficiently. Okay, so that's movement and parents and children. Now, what if, let's go over here to these beautiful palm trees. What if you've got two entities in your game world and it's not very clear whether one should be a child of the other? Now, I really like these two palm trees being near each other. I want to keep them that way, regardless of where I might move them around later on. I haven't decided. But it's not obvious which one is the parent and which is the child if I wanted to hook them together. So to remedy that, I mean, I could just add one to the other. Let's add palm tree 68 to palm tree 69. Now, if I move palm tree 69, palm tree 68 moves as well. But what if I wanted to move both of them? I just click this one and then I start moving it and it's moving on its own. So that is where the parent-child relationship isn't quite right and it hasn't quite worked there. So another thing we can do instead of that is if we select both of these items, either by clicking one and then control clicking the other one, or clicking them and shift clicking. If you wanted a whole list, you could do that. By selecting all of the things I wanted to group together, I can then right click and then select group. And what that does is Crayta has now created a locator, which is this thing here. It's just representing a point in the game world. And it's added both of these palm trees as children of that point. So I would rename that point, because I'm keeping this organized, to palm tree cluster 1. And now I can easily move them just by clicking this point here, and I can move both of them. So now they're not hierarchically involved, but they are both children of the same locator, which makes it easy to keep them grouped together and rotate them and all of that sort of stuff. Notice that the locator was added to the exact middle between the two of them as well. So that's really handy if, like me, you want to spin your palm trees round and round. Do-si-do. You can keep them. You can keep them maintaining the same distance apart, which is really helpful. And that's it. So we talked a little bit about what this world tree is and why we might use it, keeping ourselves efficiently organized, reducing the mistakes that we might make. So keeping this organized helps you keep down the mistakes, helps you improve your teamwork efficiency, helps you make better games, because you can make those huge design decisions later on in your game and easily move stuff around because you've kept it all organized. So we talked about why, we talked about how to do some of that. So using the parent-child relationships and using grouping in order to make it so that you can efficiently move stuff around your game world without having to move lots of individual entities bit by bit. So hopefully that was helpful. I really look forward to seeing what you do with that, and let me know. And I look forward to seeing you in the game.